Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks so much for coming out today. We're here to talk about energy. Again, this is the big focus today. The cost of electricity keeps going up. Where does the electricity come from? What's the overall system? So in a nutshell, up until 1997, if you were a residential or a business electric customer here in Massachusetts, you pretty much didn't have any choice in terms of your bill. You just had to pay the utility for both the delivery and the electric supply. So no choice pretty much up until that point. And then the legislature actually had a deregulation bill that really helped provide some additional choices for consumers. So at that point, the biggest change was they broke out the delivery of the electricity from the actual supply of the electricity. So I'm going to ask Amanda to actually bring up an example of a Holliston electric bill from last month, and we can help explain sort of how that's broken out on the bill and what actually role you have in terms of what you can control on this bill that will help impact your bottom line. So again, up until the end of the 1990s, everything was the things were combined together. You just paid the one bill, and then it changed so that there's now two aspects. There's the delivery, and as it says in small print, it says cost to deliver electricity from Eversource. We still don't have any choice about paying that portion of the bill. That's the transmission lines, all that infrastructure that helps bring the electricity from where it's generated to our homes or businesses. So again, you can understand that's the huge investment in that grid to help bring the electricity here. So you can understand that we don't really have a choice in paying for that part. The supply is the part we have the choice. So especially with the supply provided by our local utility, Eversource, going up in January significantly. That's part of the reason I was hoping to be able to speak with you today, is to make sure folks know about the option of participating through the town's electric aggregation program, because it's providing huge savings for residents and businesses in town that are participating, and it's also a greener, 100% renewable source of electricity. So again, for instance, you got your bill, it's a 2-pager. You want to check up here. Most of the residents in town and many of the businesses are already part of our town of Holliston's Community Choice Aggregation Program. So you're probably in good shape, but at the same time, I've had 3 different residents check in the last month saying, my electric bill went skyrocketing. Is there anything that can be done about it? I checked, all 3 happen to have a different supplier. Because again, we tend to get postcards in the mail, you get phone calls. We've got a new rate, a new deal. And again, this is all legitimate because it's the way the system was set up. But the town of Holliston has decided to go through, participate in this aggregation program so that they could provide a really good, stable option for residents to consider. So if you notice here, it says under the supply side, again, this is a Holliston resident who donated their bill for demonstration purposes. But it says cost of electricity from NextEra Energy, town of Holliston. So that's verification right here that this resident is part of the town's program. It says it's part of the town of Holliston's program. I did a quick comparison. This is just a 1-month bill like we get, all right? I did a quick comparison on what this resident is paying using the town's program compared to if they used our local utility for the supply last month. That would, instead of $115.50, the resident would have been paying about $175, because the utility changes the rates every 6 months in terms of what they charge for the supply rate. The town of Holliston's aggregation program provides the same stable rate. We're now in the 2nd year of a 3-year deal. So for almost 2 more years, it's going to be a stable and much lower rate. So if you can scroll down a little bit more, we can take another look at part of the bill. Actually, just a little if you could. No problem. So a little tip over here. This is a key part of the bill. Again, we had up above the supply and the delivery. This is still on that same page. This gives you a little summary of your electric use. Because again, we also want to try to reduce how much electricity we're using. That's something we all can control. No matter the rate, you reduce how much electricity you're using, you're saving money. So this is just a little blurb that Eversource has in their bill, giving you a little summary. You can see these folks reduced their usage by 5.6% compared to the same time last year. And again, some of that can be because of the weather, other factors. But again, you try to control what you can control. We can't control the weather, but we can control what we can control. So if you can just scroll down, this is another little tidbit. It's in real small print. But this is like an example of, it's something that would lead toward future cost increases. This is a little blurb from Eversource saying, "We are proud to provide you with safe, reliable service." And I wanted to stop there because that's the main charge our utilities have, providing us with a safe and reliable source of energy so the lights don't go out, etc. So that we're proud to do that, and we take a leadership role in preparing for our Massachusetts energy future. Delivering on these commitments requires sustained investments in our system. And they're basically saying they're now proposing new rates for next year that they're going to be looking for. And then they say, if you're looking for more information, contact Eversource. But I'm going to point out, feel free to contact your legislators. Because at the state level, State Senator Spilka and our state representative, because your input about whether the rates should go up and whether the Eversources of the world should be investing in more fossil fuel infrastructure, or should they be changing how they've been doing business and maybe putting it more towards the renewable side, will help impact things. So that's a key thing. So we can just scroll it down a little bit farther, just one other little tidbit. So keep going down to that next page, keep going a little bit more. That's probably pretty good. So again, just I mentioned the two main things, supply and delivery. So this is a little further breakout of what the charges are. Supply, as you can see, is the supplier, NextEra Energy. Again, verification that this person is a part of our program, town of Holliston. You can see there's just one charge on the supply side. Okay, and there's our rate, 0.10331. If you look, then I talked about the infrastructure, the delivery, all those transmission lines, etc. You can see all these different charges. There's 8 different charges that end up becoming one ultimate delivery charge, but it's just interesting that there are so many factors going into the delivery charge that Eversource provides. One of these things I wanted to point out is a renewable energy charge. Okay, so again, part of the bill you're paying to Eversource is a renewable energy charge, because Eversource should be a partner in helping to expand renewable energy in the Commonwealth. A big part of that charge goes towards a very important program I'm going to promote, you've probably heard of, is called Mass Save. This is a really important program because you're helping to pay for it. We're all helping to pay for it in these little tiny charges in our bill. But the Mass Save program is, again, it's a really important program. They just made some changes to it, announced in the last couple of months. And that's the program where you can get oftentimes no-cost weatherization help to make sure your home is tightened up. Insulation, they help change out some of if you have inefficient bulbs. So they're really trying to focus on energy efficiency through the Mass Save program, which we're all helping to fund through that little bit of a charge. So just want to really promote, if you're not sure if your house is really tightened up, not too tight. Again, I think we went from our homes from 100+ years ago were so-called loose, and a lot of air blowing through them, and then there was a period where it seemed like with construction they were made too tight. So that we know, we've sort of learned and we got a much better balance. Mass Save helps with that type of balancing. So that's pretty much it for the electric bills. I wanted to tie it in with in fact, another aspect of what we're talking about here is, again, the big picture evolution of how we're generating energy in this country. Again, you go back 120, this fossil fuel stuff, how old are we, 270 years, 250 years approximately? Getting close to 250, I think. The fossil fuel that we now have been relying on for the last couple decades is still relatively new in our country's history. Because again, up until the early 1900s and the mid-1900s, when petroleum really kicked into gear, that wasn't the major source of energy in the country. It was going back, it was wood way back when. Wind was used, and things like that. So, and then of course coal was introduced. going back in our history, and then we realized the damage that was coal was doing to the workers and the other impacts on people. So then we shifted to the petroleum, and now we've been getting a better understanding of the not only the cost, but also the unreliability of the fossil fuel industry with the petroleum industry. And then we can certainly see that based on the fact that price of gas is up in the mid-4s, $4 range, let alone the price of natural gas this winter went skyrocketing again. And yet you can, there's also an increased focus on the renewable energy. Trying to, again, we're sort of going back to the basics on trying to get energy from the wind and also from the sun are the two key things. There's also been a more recent shift to trying to get energy out of the air, sort of through heat pumps. So one of the ways we're trying to help shift our homes and our businesses from our normal way of doing business, having gas-powered or oil-powered furnaces, is to try to get our homes and businesses heated by either air source heat pumps or geothermal ground source heat pumps. So I wanted to point out that, again, it's nice when you can get the energy from right outside your home or under the ground underneath your home, as compared to relying on an oil well halfway around the world, or natural gas being produced by a country that used to be the biggest one in the Soviet Union, right? That's now causing significant damage in our world, and it's partly because of their focus on fossil fuels, right? It's partly why they went into Ukraine, right? So it's not a healthy way of doing business. So if you don't mind bringing up the Mass Energy Switch website, I'm going to go back to, again, your electric bills for a second, because it's important to get perspective about what we're doing here in Holliston versus what other options you have. So this is a state a website set up by the state of Massachusetts to help residents and businesses understand what options they have for their supply side of their electricity. It's called Mass Energy Switch. And if you don't mind filling in, I'm shopping for, let's do somebody's home, and then your zip code. We know the 1746. Okay, so this again is a generic website put up by the state, and they try to list all the different suppliers, the different companies that offer electricity to residents here in Holliston. So if you can see, the first one they popped up is our town aggregation program. They got the price, we're at just over 10 cents per kilowatt hour. The contract term is through December 23. I mentioned that 3-year contract we had, so almost 2 more years left with the stable pricing. Our electricity is, it says required 51% and then voluntary 49%. Quick pause here. So the required versus voluntary is partly how the state set this up. So again, the state has these climate goals, and they're trying to encourage more renewable energy. And part of that has been requiring our utilities, like for us, Eversource, and National Grid's the other big one in Massachusetts, doesn't cover Holliston. But the Commonwealth has been requiring the utilities to increase the amount of renewable energy they have in the energy that they supply. So you'll see, so again, the town of, so we're only required in Holliston to have 51% of the energy through our program be renewable, but under the leadership of our select board, they said, hey, go for it, see if you can get it 100% renewable and see if you can get it affordable. And with the support of the town's broker on this program, Colonial Power Group, they've really done a great job helping us out. We were able to secure that low rate of 10.331, 100% renewable, and it goes through 2023. Here, this last column has an estimated monthly cost. So again, if you're in the town's program, estimated $62 per month. Going on to the next one they have, direct energy. This wasn't here a little while ago. So I think partly because we have such a nice rate at our town program, you're seeing other suppliers it increases the competition. They want to try to get you, so that we may see some other ones coming in low. Direct energy, okay. They're at over 12.5 cents. So that's like 2.5 cents more than our lower rate. Okay, 8 months, no cancellation fee, but automatic renewal. heads up on that one if you're dealing with a supplier. Two of the folks that I spoke with recently that were paying 20 cents per, instead of our 10.3, they were paying 20 cents per kilowatt hour, and one was paying like 28 cents per kilowatt hour, I think. And they didn't even, but were out in an automatic renewal with their supplier, and maybe the small print. So please check that small print. It's really important if you are with a different vendor. Not saying the town's program is the answer, but it is a wonderful option for you to consider. So again, the next one down, 2.5 cents more. Hey, automatic renewal, heads up. I am glad they also are the 100% renewable energy, so that's good. But even with that, if a resident were with those folks, the average bill would be $75 per month. Compare that to the $62 a month that the town's program is offering. So really pleased and thankful that the town leadership has gotten us into a really good program on that front. But this is, again, on for the months ahead and the years ahead. Again, it's just a nice, different type of it's a good place to check to see if the program you're in it makes sense for you and is affordable. And again, I just mentioned the second one, but if you start going down the list, 12, 9, 13.3, only 6-month deal. Ours is 3 years. And if you can find the Eversource one, that would be, because they're at the Eversource. They're at the point, it should be up a little more. They're at 15.784 maybe. They listed on there. Get the glasses out. You can see how many suppliers, again, you get the mailers, you get the phone calls about changing it over. You can see there are a lot of folks trying to get your business.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so I had done a calculation, but basically it'll show on there that Eversource, they change their rates, this is the key part, they change their rates every 6 months for the supply side. It typically goes way up for the winter rates that kicked in January, and that's why right now, if you were using Eversource for your supply, it would be at the 15.7 cents roughly per kilowatt hour compared to the town's 10.33 cents per kilowatt hour. And the Eversource program for the winter rate is the minimum renewable energy. They're at the 51% level, where ours is 100% level. So again, in comparison, ours is way lower, and it's 100% renewable compared to the one provided by your utility. So I wanted to really bring up the health impacts that we've increasingly realizing are partly caused by the fossil fuel industry. I first learned about this 25 years ago, roughly. I was working for an environmental consulting company in Boston, and at that point, the significant portion of our energy in Massachusetts was coal, for our power plants, was based on coal. There were 5 major plants. They were called, the environmentalists were calling them the filthy 5, up in Somerset, up in Salem, places like that. So I actually worked on a project. We were environmentalists. We were trying to get off of the fossil fuel, the coal, powering those power plants. And the Harvard School of Public Health had done this wonderful study that helped show the impacts of the fossil fuel, the amount of asthma cases in Massachusetts with our children because of the fine particulate matter that's coming out of the smokestacks, right, where the coal's being burned, the heart conditions, etc. So the Harvard School, this is 25 years ago, so actually I helped work on a project to build natural gas infrastructure in the greater Boston area, because a new supply of natural gas was found off the coast of Nova Scotia, off a little place called Sable Island. So again, at the time in Massachusetts, 25 years ago, over-reliance on coal, we were realizing how deadly and harmful that reliance was, and the thought at the time was really we've got to get more to natural gas. We knew it was much cleaner than coal, and we certainly knew it was cleaner than oil at the time, and it is. It's not that clean, though, is what we ended up finding out. So it was great working on that project. It was successful. It helped eventually shut down the coal plants. I went down about 3 years ago. They shut down the last one, I believe, in Somerset. And it was great seeing those 500-foot smokestacks. Water cooling towers actually they get demolished. I got it a little bit. It's a fascinating thing. But the bottom line is we need to continue with the transition. It's a hard one. because again, we're so used to it. We get bombarded with advertisements about things like clean coal. I remember a few years back there were advertisements about clean coal, and they're pushing, there's a lot of money invested in the old way of doing business, and it's going to be a hard transition. But one of the wonderful things about it is when you transition your economy to new things, it's a whole new wave of job opportunities. It's a new way of doing business, and we know it's going to be healthier for us. Again, I got a teenager. There might be a job out there for him in the renewable energy field. So I would like to mention another program the town is, we're just wrapping up this program for this round of it anyways, but it ties into what we're talking about, trying to reduce energy use, save some money, and use renewable energies. And that's the program Holliston's been doing in conjunction with the towns of Ashland, Natick, and the city of Framingham. And that's been called the Metro West Solar and Clean Heat Challenge. Is there a chance you can try to bring up a website, a new one? MetroWestCleanEnergy.com. And this is a program where we, similar to other ones that have happened in Massachusetts, but those involved a state agency, the Clean Energy Center, but they sort of stopped doing programs helping towns at the moment with these things. So the other 3 towns and we got together to try to help get options out there for residents to look at solar or also heat pumps, either air source heat pumps or ground source heat pumps. So again, just an option for residents to consider. This is actually a Holliston resident, one of the first installations of solar. Took place on Turner Road. We were really pleased by that. And again, the program ran through, we basically went through a procurement process, selected an installer for the air source heat pumps, a different installer for the ground source heat pumps, and a different installer to help folks, residents and small businesses with solar panels. We've been pleased to help get the information out to residents about, again, the new technologies. These are all new things. We've had a number of residents in town adopt the air source heat pumps and the solar. And then recently, the state announced some new incentives just last month for these type of technologies. So so that's probably why we extended the program until the end of March. That's as long as we could do it, so it's pretty much dwindling down. But if you're all interested in exploring these technologies, you can go to this website again, or give me a call, and there's a sign-up page, and you can get a no-cost assessment. An installer will either come out or do it virtually, a no-cost assessment, and at least provide you with information about whether heat pumps will make sense for you, or whether it's the end of the lifetime of your oil or gas furnace. Maybe it's going to make real good sense to convert, but they'll help you sort through those things. So another opportunity to potentially get renewable energy expanded here in town, but also help folks save some money and help the earth. So just wanted to make sure we mentioned that program as well. So thank you once again. It's an exciting time, but it's a challenging time because again we've had decades of thinking one way about our energy. We've had ups and downs in this country about consumption. Let's go back to the 70s with the oil embargo in terms of impacts. Think of the wars that we've been involved in because of the oftentimes a major factor in the wars we're involved in, such as the Iran-Iraq War. Not the Iran-Iraq War, they were doing their own battle there on that one. The Iraq War, et cetera. The invasion of Kuwait was related to this as well. So for our country, but also for here locally, it's really important we try to think through what we're doing, try to make changes where it makes sense, and do it in a sustainable way, and we'll live healthier and happier lives.